Good morning. Delighted to be here today with John Straw, a man I've known for a number of years who gave the Speakers Corner team great pleasure as he used to turn up at audiences, deliver what's going to happen next. Everyone would sit there with their mouths open. He'd then shake everyone up and leave us all thinking with some incredible facts. Delighted to have you here with me today, John.
Thank you.
I think I've got to ask, listen, you used to shake us all up. Then the pandemic took over and shook us up more than you even ever predicted.
Yeah.
Have you been left behind? Are you now out of date because you can't shake us up anymore?
So that's a great question. Have I been left behind? Yeah, right. Thanks for that. Great motivational question that was. Actually, I'll take you back a little bit. I'll take you back 20 years. I started 5 businesses in the past 30 odd years. And with all but one, I've sold them. And I'd started 3 businesses, 2 with successful exits by 2001. And I was sitting there on King's Cross Tube platform one day thinking, okay, so it's been quite a pleasant journey. I've quite enjoyed it. I've made a little bit of money. Created some jobs. I've made some happy people, but it's not enough. And then I thought, you know what I actually am is I'm simply a tactical opportunist. And that's exactly what I was doing. In the early days of the internet, make a lot of money being a tactical opportunist. And I thought, no, there's got to be something bigger here. And I realized that actually I had no grasp of strategy. I also have no education as well. So I left school at the age of 17. I've got no education. I could barely spell strategy, let me understand what it was. So I did something really dramatic. And that is I took, and I'm partially dyslexic, which doesn't help either. I took out a subscription to The Economist. All right. And I've read it cover to cover for every year, for 20 years this year. And it changed my perception dramatically. Firstly, I mean, the language that they use is just beautiful. It's just superbly crafted English. But the way that they got me to think about really big picture stuff. How does stuff fit into that big picture? So given that my strategy head, and I also started working as a senior advisor to McKinsey 5 years ago, I started to look at what I'd been talking about. So I'd been talking about the rise of this technology, almost monolith in the film of artificial intelligence and IoT, how that was going to change our world, and all of a sudden people will have more leisure time because they'd have less work time. And guess what happens? All of a sudden, COVID puts everybody that's possible into their home to be working from their home. And I can sit there thinking, I know what's going on in the chief exec's mind. Is that, hang on a minute, this person can work from home. I'm just wondering how much of their job could be automated. Using all this technology, which has now become artificial intelligence. It's not quite common language, but it's definitely a language that even up in the pub I live.
We're all acceptable.
It's acceptable language. Yeah. People almost actually understand it as well, which I'm quite surprised about because I can barely understand it. But yeah, so there I go. Then I'm starting to think. So, given all this technology sort of is automating everything for us and doing all the crappy stuff, that releases us to do what we are really good at doing as human beings, and that is being creative. Anyway, so I had this defining moment about June of last year, and then I got really interested. Into the psychology of selling, behavioral economics. So I did a course on it, and I started to realize that actually, as we come out of COVID, as a lot of jobs are more automated, CEOs are more orientated to getting faster pace of automation, then the killer edge that we have as human beings is creativity. And to me, it's not innovation. Innovation is a scary word. Ingenuity highlights it, because what it allows us to do is it allows us to see our creativity without actually really threatening anybody. And I'll give you a classic example of that. Nick, tell me, by the way, if I'm talking too much.
No, I'm listening.
I have been known to do that.
Thoroughly been listening.
So I bought a new iPad last year, and Apple's got a really interesting problem. The quality of their product is so good that it lasts a long time. As a direct result of that, there's a massive second and third and fourth hand marketplace for it. And I'm not entirely sure it's actually that good for their bottom line, because you buy an iPad and you think it's going to last 10 years. So I was buying this iPad, and as I was actually configuring it, they gave me the option, would you like it engraved free of charge? And I thought, oh, that's really nice. I could buy one for Linda, my partner. and have it engraved. And then I thought, hang on a minute, Apple, you clever buggers. What you've just gone and done is you've just denied that product going into the secondhand marketplace, because hardly anybody's going to buy it with an engraving into somebody else. And that, to me, that's ingenious. Some people call it nudge. This is where where you're doing the tiny little things that actually make a big difference. So that's where I've come from, and that's where I'm ending up, as I'm now taking a completely new look at the way that we are capable of modifying the way that people actually behave for the better for everybody.
And when you say new look, it fascinates me that. But in terms of new look, is it actually, have you completely rechanged how you thought, and almost not rechanged how you thought, but what you were talking about beforehand has just been accelerated by the pandemic, but it was always going to happen?
Yes.
And so you've had to reposition yourself, or is it the fact that actually all you've done is you've evolved in terms of your thinking?
It is absolutely
ahead of us. So the pandemic has forced you to think about what's next.
Yeah, absolutely it did. And it at a very high level, I think in the next 10 to 15 years, as populations get older, and certainly in the UK, our population is getting older quite quickly, then a lot of jobs are going to have to be automated, and a lot of jobs are going to be handled by AI. I think I told you when we first met a great quote from somebody in AI, and basically says, if you can write a typed job description for somebody, they're out of a job. AI will replace them, right? Well, given that, then therefore we need to find things for more people to do, which actually opens up the creativity for it. So actually, in many respects, the technology has got to a point now that we know that it's going to accelerate to change the working environment. So let's just release what we can. The technology will now release us to be more creative.
Can I just kind of, listen, you've obviously always embraced technology, and that's where you fit, and kind of in terms of knowing what's out there. How much do you think that the technology we currently have now, especially that we've all embraced through the virtual world, sits comfortably with the term creativity? Is it an enabler, or is it a hindrance, or something in between?
I think that AI is really interesting in the fact that it's stealthy. It's not like, we come into the marketplace and all of a sudden there's this AI system sitting in front of us and they're thinking, oh God, what have I, just killed my job or whatever. It's stealthy. And actually, you're using AI pretty much every day now. And I use Siri quite frequently on Apple. It's powered by an increasingly powerful AI. Your Google search results are AI. So I think what it's doing is it's transforming the way that we work incredibly subtly. And a lot of people, I don't think, want to be confronted by an AI. I think that they actually, the subtlety coming into our workplaces. I don't see an industrial revolution, going around and breaking the machines in the industrial revolution. I just don't see it happening because it's all too subtle. But because of this enablement to actually allow us to be more creative as a direct result of that technology, I think we have reason to be actually friends with it. Whether or not we're going to be friends with Facebook and stuff like that is an entirely different proposition. But it's obviously it stretches into the privacy area. But nevertheless, no, I think that technology is becoming very good bedfellow for us.
So let me ask you one more question. I suppose kind of as you talk about this and you talk about the future, and you talk about creativity, which to me does imply kind of conversations going on between individuals about what we can be doing that's smart and genius and way forward. Have you got an opinion? And again, time stamping where we are speaking now, we're kind of in March 2021. There's conversations about if, when, how the office culture returns and the benefits of it. Have you got an opinion about what the future of the workplace will look like?
Yes, but it's a hybrid. And that is, I have several startups in my investment portfolio. I was talking to one the other day, and he's saying, well, we've come to the conclusion that actually we don't need an office and everybody can work from home. And I turned around and said, look, as I got into my 60s, I realized that human relationships are incredibly important. And whilst technology increases the efficiency which we can communicate with people, actually hanging around a water cooler actually has got really big benefits from sparking that creativity. So I think that where a lot of the business I'm involved in and take a look at will end up is, I think they'll end up as hybrids. And a lot of the stuff, my daughter's a defense analyst in London, and she told me that they've got a new rule in, and that is as of the end of May, they'll be going into the office for a minimum 2 days a week. And that way they get the benefit of the office, and she wants to go back because she's learning. She said, I can't learn over Zoom. because you don't have the interactivity. It's, preset conversations. So I think that will be a lot of that. I think there'll be a lot of compromises. Will the world ever return to what it was? No, I don't think it will. I think, we'll be ready for the next one when it comes. But in the meantime, businesses will learn to adapt. There is one worry I do have, and that is that big businesses seem to have adapted to COVID very well. I think small to medium-sized enterprises haven't been able to adapt to it as well as big businesses because they just didn't have the IT resource to be able to do it. And I hope that those businesses will get help to be able to actually, move into a more efficient operating environment when people can actually work from home.
Brilliant. John Straw, always a pleasure to speak to you, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.